And welcome to Ask the Specialist on CMU Public Television. I'm Mike Horace, and tonight we're talking nutrition. Your questions next. Welcome back to Ask the Specialist on CMU Public Television. Tonight we're talking nutrition. Our guests. The first, Adrienne Skates, She's a registered dietitian with Mid-Michigan Medical Center in Gratiot. Welcome, Adrienne. And we have Brandon Schultz as well. He's a certified personal trainer at Central Michigan University and coordinator of fitness and conditioning for the Central Health Improvement Program. Welcome to you as well. And for our guests, you can get involved by calling us with your questions right now. The phone number is 1-800-727-9268. You can also ask a question on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/askthespecialist. And we're on Twitter as well at WCMU_AskThe. So let's get right to our questions. And Adrienne, I'd like to start with you. Tell us, what does a dietitian do? What is your typical day like?
Well, we have a variety of functions that we perform. Since I'm hospital-based, we see both inpatients, which takes up a big part of our time. We're responsible for assessing the nutritional status of our patients, providing any nutrition education that they might need, determining how we might better meet their nutrition needs to help make them better and improve their health while they're with us and after they go home. We also do a lot of outpatient education as well. People are usually referred by their physicians, so they usually have some kind of underlying medical problem. Often it's diabetes. We do a lot of diabetes education. We also do a lot of classes. We have a bariatric program. We do classes for that. We do weight management programs as well. So pretty varied day.
Okay. And Brandon, what about you? What is your typical day like? What do you specialize in?
For me, I spend the bulk of my day dealing with faculty, staff, retirees, and their spouses, providing fitness programming and nutrition advice to empower them to work into their goals, whatever they may be, fitness and or nutrition related.
All right. Well, Adrienne, our first question, somebody wants to know, what can they expect with their first visit to a dietitian?
Well, first we try to find out what their goals are, what it is they're trying to accomplish, and then we work with them to determine how they can meet those goals. Providing nutrition education, we try to set them up with some specific goals that they can work towards, whether it's controlling their blood sugars, whether it's a weight loss goal or a combination of those. We spend a lot of time what's often called unpacking, just getting information from the patient, what they're doing now, in order to determine how we can change those habits to improve their health.
Brandon, what can you tell us about dietary guidelines for Americans? Why are they important, and have there been any changes recently?
The U.S. Dietary Guidelines for Americans, so the U.S. DGA's Dietary Guidelines for Americans, is put together by a panel of experts that review all of the latest research regarding fitness and nutrition. And they compile, summarize that literature, and put it into a document that is then issued by the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Surgeon General. So I guess a couple things to understand about that is the information that is in there is not put out by the government, but it's put out by experts in the field. And not only is it dietary guidelines, but also physical activity guidelines as well.
Okay. We have a question from Traverse City, and Adrienne, I think this one might be right up your alley. This caller has type 2 diabetes. Is there any chance that she could leave insulin and have just diet alone control her blood sugar?
There have been patients that have accomplished that goal. Often it's accomplished through weight loss. As we lose weight, our bodies become more or less resistant to the insulin that we're already producing. So by engaging in a well-balanced meal plan, watching your carbohydrate intake, weight loss, and an activity goal, it's possible that a patient can get off insulin.
All right, we have a call from Manistee asking about Slim Fast. Does it help you lose weight? Does it work? Anyone who wants to take that one?
The product itself is not going to result in weight loss. I don't think that that is a claim that they put on there. Is it a meal replacement? Yes. Does it have much of the same things that you would get from eating a well-balanced meal? Yes. So will that in and of itself help you lose weight? If it's calorie restrictive, if it's less calories than what you would otherwise consume, then yeah.
Okay. Another question coming in from the Grand Traverse area, wondering about the importance of breakfast before you work out in the morning. Is it an important thing? Should you be having breakfast before a workout?
I think you should have something to eat before you work out. Otherwise, your blood sugars can drop. So I think you need something to fuel that activity. Timing is a big issue when you get up in the morning. If you're going to exercise right away, you probably don't need to eat a lot, but just something to get some carbohydrate in there for the body to work on, and then maybe have a full breakfast after the activity, unless it's going to be a gap in time.
And I would agree. I mean, the thing to understand, when you wake up in the morning, you're coming off of a 6, 7, 8 hour fast.
Right.
So you're asking your body to essentially go perform physical activity without fuel. We certainly wouldn't try to start our car without fuel in it, so I guess that's the way I would look at eating something prior to a workout.
Okay. We have a question from Mount Pleasant. If you often don't feel hungry, but you know you haven't eaten enough calories, should you eat, or does your body not need that extra energy, that extra food coming in?
I think it's good to listen to your body. Typically, we should eat when we're hungry. I think there are times where it might be wise to have a meal, maybe not a big heavy meal, even if you're not hungry. I believe people should eat at least a minimum of 3 times a day. So.
Okay. Reminder to our viewers out there, you can ask a question right now by calling 800-727-9268 or connect with us on Facebook and Twitter. Here's a question from Boyne City, pretty simple one. Is venison healthy for you?
Absolutely. And we eat a lot of it. It's a nice, good, lean meat, especially if you don't have any extra animal fat ground in with your ground venison. And if you're not adding a lot of fat when you're preparing it, it's an excellent lean meat.
Okay. This question also coming from the Manistee area, and it's a 48-year-old female who has had her ovaries removed. She's trying to exercise every day to build muscle and promote bone health, and she's wondering what kind of foods, what kind of supplements should she include in her regimen that she's doing?
I'll take it, I guess, first. Supplements are just that, a supplement to what you're already eating. And so specific to having a procedure like that done, that would be something that unless their surgeon or primary care has given them specific supplements to take, then we should first seek to get our nutrition from foods, whole foods, and then supplement second.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, this question from Ithaca. This caller wondering the difference between soy and coconut milk and wondering how that ties into estrogen. Is that a source?
Soy has phytoestrogens in it. I'm not aware that coconut milk does. Soy milk has a good source of protein in it. Coconut milk, I don't believe, has that much protein in it, so they're really not, I wouldn't consider them comparable products at all. If you have anything to add to that or not. But.
They're comparable from the standpoint that they're both coming from a plant source.
Yeah.
And if it's coming from a plant source, it's probably going to be better for you than if it were coming from an animal source. Mm-hmm. But the health claims, there just isn't a ton of good scientific literature saying that coconut or soy milk has any health benefits beyond just what they are in terms of what they contain regarding the macronutrients, carbs, fats, and proteins.
Okay. A caller from the west side of the state wondering about diet pop. Does that make you gain weight?
Depends on who you listen to. I don't think there's any scientific research that proves that diet pop makes you gain weight. That being said, I think it's important to use some moderation with it. There's a lot of artificial sweeteners in there, and although I don't believe you need to completely avoid diet pop, I still think it's probably wise not to drink much more than a couple of 12 ounces or a 20-ounce bottle at the max per day. So, if you have anything you want to add to that.
Calorically, diet soda has no calories in it.
Right.
And calories are what leads to, too many calories is what leads to weight gain. However, the artificial sweeteners in them, what is that doing in the body? And what she alluded to is just that we're not exactly sure what mechanisms they may be interfering with. So strictly on a caloric calorie level, there aren't any in there not contributing to your overall daily intake of calories, so it shouldn't be contributing to weight gain.
All right, let's talk about what people should be eating for a moment. A lot of people were familiar with the old food pyramid. That's been replaced now by the My Plate symbol. Can you describe what exactly is the My Plate symbol and how should people be using it?
It's a simplified guide using a plate and dividing it, saying that a quarter of your plate should be your protein portion. And if you do that with a standard size dinner plate, that forces your protein portion down to about a 3-ounce portion, which is appropriate for meats and so forth. A quarter of your plate should be a starch of some kind, potato, pasta, rice. And again, by limiting it to a quarter of the plate, that controls the portion, and then filling up the rest of the plate with vegetables, as well as having some fruits in that other half of the plate. So what it does is it encourages us to balance out our meal plan, and it's a very simplified approach that's very easily understood, that we're supposed to be eating more fruits and vegetables and controlling those portions of carbohydrates and proteins.
Okay. And our viewers did just see that on the screen, and I'm sure they can do a simple Google search to find more information just about how that works.
MyPlate.gov has a lot of excellent nutrition information on it.
Excellent. This one might be a good question for you. We have a caller from Brown City who wants to start exercising and hasn't done anything in years. He says he does have some heart problems, COPD, bronchitis, but wants to know what are some types of exercise they can start doing to start getting in better shape.
Well, first of all, I would encourage the individual to see their primary care, get clearance, let them know that what do I need to be concerned with relative to my own personal health. And then in addition to that, once clearance is obtained and they can move forward comfortably, then it just begins literally one step at a time. If they're going from doing nothing to something, anything is going to be better. So just simply walking around the house for 10 continuous minutes or 5 continuous minutes. If there's any stairs, maybe not walking up and down them, but even just up and down off that step. Anything that you can do in 5-10 minute intervals, continuous, and then if you've got to stop and then begin again, that's where you want to start. But I would encourage them to move now, whatever amount that is. Assess where you're at, and then start slowly and progress.
And it sounds like that's a case where they should talk with their primary care physician.
Yep.
Okay. This question coming from Maple City, asking about green tea. How much should you drink a day to get the health benefits from it?
I would say about 3 cups a day. I don't know how conclusive some of the health benefits are. I know there's been some information out there about weight loss and so forth, but I think there is some good evidence to indicate that green tea is a good source of antioxidants and that there are some health benefits.
Okay. We have a caller from Alpena They say that they weigh about 315 pounds, and they're wondering how many calories should their daily intake be?
Well, there's a couple other things that are going to factor into that, of course, other than just body weight, age, activity levels as well. But I know when we do estimated needs on our patients, often people in the 300-pound range can require as much as 2,500 to 3,000 calories for weight maintenance. So if your goal is weight loss, you want to take about 500 off of that. So for weight loss, between 2,000 and 2,500 would be appropriate.
Okay. We have a question coming in from Facebook. They bring up the old saying, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. And this person on Facebook points out that fruit is high in sugar too, so how much fruit is too much?
Well, the recommendation is for 2 to 3 servings of fruit a day, or about 2 cups of fruit a day. So, and preferably fruits with no added sugars. So fresh, or if they're canned, packed in water, their own juice.
Okay.
So.
And is there a big difference between those canned fruits and fruit that's right off the tree? How big a difference is there?
Well, when fruits are canned, they're usually canned very close to when they've been picked. So actually, a lot of people used to say, well, canned fruit isn't as good for you as fresh, but since it's canned so close to the time that it's picked, it actually has as good nutritional value as fresh fruits that may have been on the grocer's shelf and deteriorated some in the shipping process from the fields and so forth. So still a good viable option as long as there's not a lot of added sugars.
Okay. A reminder, our phone lines remain open. You can call us now with your question, and that number is on the screen, or connect with us on Twitter or Facebook. Brandon, a question for you. What is the best core exercise that you can do? This is a question coming from Davison.
I don't know that there is a best core exercise, but I think it is important that people understand the function of the core, and the core isn't designed specifically for flexion. And what I mean by that is getting on the floor and coming up into a crunch sit-up position isn't the core's primary role. The core is actually designed to transfer forces from the limbs of the lower body to the upper body, and vice versa. And also the core is designed to function to resist movement. So that when you do, say, throw a ball, that your body doesn't continue to spin around itself. And so I guess understanding truly what the core is, that you're not just talking about the six-pack muscle, and that it involves much more muscle groups, and the function isn't supported by many of the mainstream typical core exercises that you may see. So a plank would be more appropriate, plus there's modifications and progressions with that. And I think it's important to take into account, again, assess where you're at and do what you're capable of, rather than doing what a magazine or some photo is trying to emulate.
Okay. This question coming in from Heartland, and another question about tea. They're wondering if there's a difference between instant tea and brewed tea. Is one of them better than the other?
I don't know of any scientific evidence that one's better than the other. My gut's telling me that brewed is better just because it's fresher. If there are any antioxidants in that tea, they're more likely to be intact with a brewed tea than an instant.
Okay. Another nutrition question, this one coming from Mount Pleasant, wondering the difference between eggs that are organic, free-range, or vegetarian ones, which I'm not really sure vegetarian eggs are out there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they mean by vegetarian eggs. Chickens, there is some evidence that what's in the egg is a little bit determined by what chickens are fed, and that's where some of these companies are feeding their chickens feed that's high in omega-3 fats, and therefore the eggs are a little bit higher in omega-3 fats. I don't know that there's any real significant difference in free range versus non-free range, other than it might be somewhat affected by the feed. I'm not sure what a vegetarian chicken egg is, so
Right.
not sure.
Okay, this question coming from Hersey, and it's about weight loss. Specifically, do men lose weight faster than women? Is there a difference between the way men and women lose weight?
The difference that they may be speaking to is the difference in lean body mass. Lean body mass, muscle mass, is what drives our metabolism. And so, due to the genetic difference between males and females, men have a higher percentage of lean body mass at any weight relative to women in most cases. So, yes. And no, because if you're changing your calories, if you're reducing your calories by 200 a day, and both male and female are doing that, it should happen at a similar rate, so long as you're still taking into account that men need more calories overall than females do because of the difference in lean body mass.
Okay. We have a couple questions about diabetes coming in. This first one is wondering about diabetic medicines that don't make you gain weight. Are they out there?
Well, metformin actually has, for some people, resulted in weight control or weight loss. Insulin, I know a lot of people do experience weight control issues with insulins, so I guess metformin, and a lot of patients are on metformin, so I would say that's the number one for controlling weight.
Okay. And then a follow-up question on that, wondering about being borderline diabetic. People are starting to be put on medicine for this condition. Are there alternatives to it? And again, talking about the weight gain, there's this caller is concerned about that.
Well, you know, borderline diabetes, we had that term. We like to call it hyperglycemia rather than pre-diabetes rather than borderline. You know, a lot of people are finding that their blood sugars are running a little bit on the high side. They don't really qualify yet as a full-fledged diabetic. Certainly the things that they can do are, again, weight control, managing their carbohydrate intake, eating a well-balanced meal plan, and picking up on their physical activity. And all of those things will work together to help control the prediabetes and help it prevent and keep it from becoming a full-fledged diabetes. We do offer at the Medical Center a program on prediabetes, which if you go to the Mid-Michigan website, you could get the information for those classes.
Okay. And one more diabetes question here. We have a caller from Leroy. They're a type 2 diabetic. They're taking 2 types of insulin, 61 years old, weighs about 178 pounds, and they're wondering what kind of things should they be eating if they're not able to eat gluten. And they're trying to lose weight, but again, the insulin is not helping with that.
All right. You may actually benefit from talking to a registered dietitian. What I can say is you still need to manage your carbohydrates. Obviously, it's a little more challenge with the gluten intolerance because a lot of the carbohydrates do have gluten in them. However, there are a number that do not, including rice, potatoes, starchy vegetables like corn and peas, and certainly fruits are still a form of carbohydrate that are gluten-free, as are your dairy foods. So it's still possible to manage those carbohydrates even in the picture of gluten intolerance. Plus a lot of the gluten-free foods that are on the market, some of those are still going to have carbohydrate in them. So if you get a gluten-free bread, you still need to be managing the total carbohydrate intake.
Okay.
So.
We're in our last few minutes here, so I'm going to try to get to a couple questions really quick. The first one, we have a caller from Gladwin. They have hyperthyroidism, borderline, they say, and they're wondering what kind of food should they be eating to help with that condition.
I think that's a condition that is probably more medically managed. I'm not aware, and I have actually looked recently for information on thyroid disease and diet, and there's nothing really out there specific for that condition.
Okay.
So.
In terms of obesity in children, we have a question wondering what should we be doing both for what our kids are eating and then in terms of physical activity as well to help them maintain a healthy weight.
I'll talk about eating and then you can talk about physical activity. I think we need to promote healthy nutrition for our children. Less processed foods, more fruits and vegetables, more whole grain breads and cereals. Really the nutrition message that we have for all Americans goes for our children as well. I talk to people all the time that think that kids need to have chips and they need to have cookies and that, and they don't really need to have those foods. I think it's important too, as parents and adults, to model for our children what good nutrition is. So, you know, it's kind of like, don't do as I say, do as I do, is really the message there too for parents.
And in terms of exercise for children, what kind of advice would you have?
Kids should play. I think the obesity epidemic that we're seeing in children and young people has more to do with the technology that they're sitting in front of rather than the balls that they're out kicking and throwing. And so kids should be playing. And again, physical activity guidelines are a little bit different. Adults, 30 minutes most days, but for children and young people, 60 minutes. And so it's about reducing TV time and to understand that the behaviors that kids learn come from the adults that they're around, albeit food choices, activity levels. So it becomes learned behavior rather than, oh, I don't like this or I don't like that. They get that they learn that. That isn't something that they're born to like or not like their broccoli. That's something that's learned in the amount that they play. When given the choice, kids will play. So
Encourage that. Very quickly, I'll give you 30 seconds to answer this one real quick. If somebody's on a diet, what is one piece of advice you have for them?
Don't go on a diet. It's too easy to go off. So it's more of adopting a healthy lifestyle.
Okay.
Eating the right things, moving.
develop the pattern, develop a pattern of eating. It's not about one meal, one event, one time of year. It's a pattern of eating over the course of a year and over a course of a lifetime. So develop a healthy eating pattern rather than a diet.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for this evening. My thanks to Adrian Skates and Brandon Schultz for their time this evening answering our nutrition questions. My thanks to our phone operators as well, and to you, our viewers. Thanks for all of the great questions. If you asked us a question this evening and you didn't hear an answer on air, check our Facebook page, facebook.com/askthespecialist. We'll have some more answers coming tomorrow morning. I'm Mike Horace. Have a good evening.